I was in the middle of a conference call when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me reach for it. The voice on the other end was crisp, professional, apologetic. A school nurse. My granddaughter Emma was in the emergency room with what looked like a broken arm. My heart stopped. But what she said next made my blood run cold. Your son-in-law said not to bother you. He said he'd handle it. I stared at my computer screen, the faces of my colleagues still talking in little squares, their voices distant and meaningless. Marcus said not to bother me. Marcus, who'd been married to my daughter Jasmine for 9 years. Marcus, who I'd watched grow from that charming young man who couldn't stop smiling at my baby girl into something else, something I'd been trying not to see. Where is her mother? I asked, my voice steady despite the ice forming in my chest. The nurse hesitated. We've been trying to reach her for 2 hours. Her phone goes straight to voicemail. That's when we called you. And Marcus? I already knew the answer, but I needed to hear it. He told us he had an important work commitment and would get there as soon as possible. That was 3 hours ago. I looked at my reflection in the darkened window of my home office. At 56, I'd worked too hard for too long to let anyone treat my family like an afterthought. My locks were pulled back in my usual neat bun, silver threads woven through the black like hard-earned wisdom. I grabbed my keys. The hospital is 200 miles away. I'll be there in under 3 hours. Keep her comfortable. Tell her Grandma is coming. Before I continue, tell me where you're watching from. Have you ever gotten a call that made your entire world shift? Drop a comment below, because this was just the beginning. I didn't pack a bag, didn't leave a note. Just got in my car and drove, my hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles looked ashen against my brown skin. I called Jasmine 17 times. Voicemail, voicemail, voicemail. Each beep felt like a punch to my gut. My daughter, my responsible, loving daughter who would walk through fire for Emma, wasn't answering her phone. Something was very, very wrong. The drive should have taken 3.5 hours. I made it in 2 hours and 40 minutes. Every mile, I kept thinking about Emma. 8 years old, alone in a hospital, in pain, scared, waiting for someone who loved her to show up. And Marcus, that piece of work, had told them not to bother me. I'd never liked Marcus. There, I said it, not from the beginning. When Jasmine brought him home 7 years ago, fresh out of business school with his tailored suits and his practiced smile, something in my gut twisted. But Jasmine was glowing, and I'd learned the hard way that sometimes you have to let your children make their own choices, even when those choices have perfect teeth and dead eyes. The first year was fine, good even. He was attentive, thoughtful, showed up to family dinners with expensive wine and stories from his marketing firm. But after Emma was born, things shifted. Subtle at first. He worked late more often, took business trips that seemed to last longer each time. Jasmine started looking tired, her smile not quite reaching her eyes when she thought no one was watching. I'd asked her, of course, multiple times. She always said the same thing. He's building his career, Mom. It's stressful right now, but it'll get better. I'd wanted to shake her, to tell her that a man who truly loves you doesn't make you this exhausted. But she was 31 years old, a grown woman with a master's degree and a career of her own. So I stayed quiet, watched, waited. The emergency room was exactly as cold and fluorescent as I remembered from too many late nights with my own kids decades ago. I found Emma in a curtained-off area, her small body looking even smaller in the hospital bed. Her left arm was in a temporary splint, her face streaked with dried tears. Her hair, those beautiful thick curls Jasmine usually kept in neat twists, was tangled and matted on one side. She'd been crying so long, her brown skin looked ashy around her eyes. The second she saw me, her face crumpled. "Grandma," she sobbed, and I was there, wrapping my arms around her, careful of the injured arm, breathing in the little girl's smell of her. "I'm here, baby. I'm here. Grandma's got you." A young doctor appeared, clipboard in hand, relief evident on her face. Finally, "Are you the guardian?" "I'm the grandmother. Where's the father?" The doctor's expression tightened just slightly, professional mask slipping for half a second. He left. Said he had somewhere to be and someone would come get her. That's when I noticed Emma had gone very still against me. I pulled back gently, looking into her tear-swollen eyes. "Baby, what happened? How did you break your arm?" She looked down, picking at the hospital blanket with her good hand. "I fell on the playground. It hurt really bad, Grandma. Mrs. Peterson, that's my teacher, she called Daddy. He came, and then he took me here, and then he got a phone call and he said he had to go, but someone would come get me soon." My jaw tightened. "How long ago was that?" She shrugged, that heartbreaking child's gesture of trying to be brave. "I don't know. A long time." I was scared. The nurses were nice, but I wanted Mommy. "Did you try to call your Mommy?" Her bottom lip trembled. "Daddy said Mommy's phone was broken and she was away for work and couldn't come. He said it would worry you, so we shouldn't call you." Subscribe right now, because what I discovered in the next few minutes changed absolutely everything. I stepped away from Emma's bed, pulling out my phone, fingers moving with purpose, born of 30 years in corporate consulting, where I'd learned to find information people didn't want found. Marcus's Instagram. I rarely looked at it. Jasmine had stopped posting on social media months ago. Another red flag I'd filed away. But Marcus still posted constantly. The first photo made my vision blur red. Marcus, in a crisp white button-down, arms around a woman I didn't recognize. Blonde, young, wearing a birthday crown. The caption, "Celebrating this amazing woman. Best day ever." The timestamp, 2 hours ago, while Emma was alone in the ER. I scrolled. More photos. A restaurant I recognized. Upscale downtown. The kind of place you don't just walk into. The kind of place you make reservations at weeks in advance. Him feeding her cake. Her laughing, head thrown back. Comments poured in. "Happy birthday, Ashley. You two are so cute. Best couple ever. Best couple ever." I felt something inside me go very, very cold. The kind of cold that comes right before a controlled burn. I opened Jasmine's Instagram. Nothing new in 6 months. Her last post was of Emma on the first day of 3rd grade. Happy, smiling, holding a backpack almost as big as she was. I went to Facebook. Same thing. Silence. Then I did what I should have done months ago. I called Jasmine's best friend, Monica. She answered on the second ring. "Monica, where is Jasmine?" There was a pause, heavy and loaded. "Oh, God. You don't know." She started crying. "He told her you knew. He said you supported his decision. Monica, where is my daughter?" The story came out in broken pieces. 6 weeks ago, Marcus had told Jasmine he wanted a divorce. He'd met someone. Ashley, a 26-year-old associate at his firm. He wanted Jasmine out of the house. She'd been staying with Monica, trying to figure out what to do, trying to protect Emma from the chaos, trying to give Marcus space to work through whatever this was. He'd promised that he'd take care of Emma while Jasmine got herself together. He'd promised to co-parent responsibly during this transition. He'd told Jasmine that I knew about the separation and agreed it was best if Emma stayed with him in the family home to maintain stability while they figured out the details. He lied to her, I said flatly. He told her I knew. I didn't know anything. Monica's voice cracked. "I told her to call you. I told her this didn't sound right. But she was so broken, and he was so convincing, and he kept saying Emma needed routine and stability, and he could provide that while Jasmine dealt with the divorce stress, and where is she now? At my apartment. She's not doing well. She won't eat, won't sleep, keeps saying she's a terrible mother for leaving Emma. Give me your address. I'm bringing Emma to her." I hung up and looked at my granddaughter, who was trying so hard to be brave, and then I looked back at my phone, at Marcus's smiling face, at that woman's birthday crown, at the comments from 340 people who thought they were looking at love. Something crystallized in my mind with perfect, terrible clarity. For 6 weeks, while my daughter cried herself to sleep, thinking she'd abandoned her child to save her marriage, this man had been playing house with his girlfriend. For 6 weeks, he'd kept them apart with lies. And today, when his daughter broke her bones and sat alone in a sterile emergency room, he'd chosen birthday cake and Instagram photos over her. If you're enjoying this story, hit that like button right now, because what I did next, I did with a clear conscience. I took out my phone and returned to Emma's bedside. "Baby," I said gently, I need to take your picture. Just for Mommy, so she knows you're okay. Emma wiped her eyes and tried to smile. It came out wobbly, heartbreaking. I took the photo. My beautiful granddaughter, alone in a hospital bed, arm in a splint, eyes red from crying, looking so small and scared it made my chest ache. Then I opened Marcus's most recent post, the one with him and Ashley, his arm around her waist, both of them grinning at the camera like they didn't have a care in the world. I hit comment. I didn't write anything elaborate. I didn't need to. I simply posted the photo of Emma, alone, crying, in the hospital, and I tagged him. But I didn't stop there. See, in my 30 years of corporate consulting, I'd learned something valuable. The court of public opinion is swift and merciless, but only if the right people are in the jury. I clicked on the guest list for Ashley's birthday party. 340 people had been tagged at this upscale restaurant. I recognized some of the names, colleagues from his firm, Marcus's boss, David Brennan, the senior partners, Ashley's work friends, mutual friends I'd met at Jasmine's wedding, back when I'd tried to give this man the benefit of the doubt. I tagged them all, every single one. 340 tags on that photo of Emma. I didn't add a caption. I didn't need to. The photo said everything. Then I took Emma by her good hand. Come on, baby. We're going to see Mommy. Her eyes went wide. Mommy? But Daddy said. Daddy lied, sweetheart. Mommy's been trying to get to you this whole time. She never left you. She would never leave you. The nurse had Emma's discharge papers ready. The break was clean, would heal fine with the cast she'd get from the orthopedist next week. I signed everything with sharp, precise strokes. As we walked out, my phone started buzzing. Then buzzing more. Then it didn't stop. I glanced at the screen. Notifications flooded in faster than I could count. Comments, shares, messages. The photo was everywhere. I turned the phone to silent and focused on getting Emma to the car, getting her settled with her seatbelt carefully arranged around her cast, getting her a juice box from the vending machine. As I pulled out of the parking lot, Emma already drowsing against the window, exhausted from pain and fear and relief, I allowed myself one look at my phone. The post had been shared 200 times in 15 minutes. The comments were exactly what I'd expected. Where are you? Is this your daughter? Why isn't anyone with her? This is today. You're at a party? Someone had replied with a screenshot of Marcus's caption, "Best day ever," right next to the timestamp on Emma's photo. They matched. While you posted this, she was alone? But it was the comments from his professional circle that made me smile. A small, satisfied smile. David Brennan, his boss, had commented, "Marcus, call me immediately." A senior partner. Is this some kind of sick joke? Ashley's own comment on her birthday post, frantic. Baby, what is happening? This isn't what it looks like. Oh, but it was exactly what it looked like. Would you have done what I did? Drop a comment below before I tell you what happened next, because things moved fast. My phone rang. Marcus. I didn't answer. It rang again. 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 I let every call go to voicemail, my eyes on the road, one hand reaching back occasionally to touch Emma's knee, reminding her she wasn't alone anymore. By the time we reached Monica's apartment, an hour and 20 minutes later, I had 63 missed calls from Marcus, 47 text messages, and the post had been shared over 1,000 times. I carried Emma up the stairs. She was awake now, excited, chattering about seeing her mommy. Monica opened the door before I could knock, and behind her, I saw my daughter. Jasmine looked like she'd aged a decade in 6 weeks. Her hair, usually so carefully maintained, was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She'd lost weight. Her eyes were hollow. But the second she saw Emma, life flooded back into her face. Baby. She was across the room in seconds, dropping to her knees, gathering Emma into her arms, careful of the broken limb. Oh, baby. Oh, my baby, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Mommy! Emma was crying again, but different tears now. Happy tears. Relieved tears. I missed you so much. Daddy said your phone was broken and you had to work and... Jasmine's eyes met mine over Emma's head. In that look, I saw her understand. Saw the pieces click together. Saw the devastation, the betrayal, the fury. I shook my head slightly. Later. For now, be with your daughter. I stepped into Monica's kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and finally looked at my phone properly. The post had exploded. Over 5,000 shares. News outlets were picking it up. Local mom blogger accounts were posting it. Someone had created a hashtag Ashley's birthday. The comments on Marcus's page were brutal. You left your injured child alone for this? What kind of father are you? That poor baby. Someone needs to call CPS. This man is a senior marketing director at Brennan Associates? Not for long. His company's official social media accounts were being flooded. People were tagging them, demanding answers. How do you employ someone who abandons an injured child? Is this the character of your leadership team? Brennan Associates supports men who leave 8-year-olds alone in emergency rooms? Ashley's birthday photos had become a crime scene. Every comment a variation of shame and disgust. Her own friends were turning on her in the comments. Girl, I don't care if it's your birthday. This is wrong. Did you know? Did you know his kid was in the hospital? How could you smile in these photos knowing this? If you're a mother, if you've ever had to stand up for your daughter, hit that like button right now. My phone rang again. Not Marcus this time. A number I didn't recognize, but with a local area code. I answered. Is this Margaret Winters? Yes. This is David Brennan, Marcus's employer. I need to speak with you about this photograph. I leaned against Monica's kitchen counter, my voice calm and measured. The voice I'd used in boardrooms for 3 decades when men tried to intimidate me. What about it? Is it real? Is that his daughter? That's my granddaughter, yes. She broke her arm on the playground this afternoon. The school called Marcus first, as he's listed as the primary emergency contact. He brought her to the hospital and then left her there alone for over 3 hours while he attended a party. The silence on the other end was heavy. We were not aware Marcus had any family emergency today. He told us he needed to leave early for a doctor's appointment. Not his appointment, apparently. Mr. Brennan, I said, my tone still professional, still controlled, but with an edge of steel underneath. I'm not interested in getting anyone fired, but I am interested in making sure everyone knows exactly who they're dealing with. That man told my daughter I knew about their separation. He's kept her away from her child for 6 weeks, using that lie. Today, when Emma needed him most, he chose Instagram posts over his daughter's safety. Whatever you do with that information is your business. But I won't apologize for telling the truth. There was a pause then. I understand. For what it's worth, I'm very sorry this happened to your granddaughter. I hope she recovers quickly. He hung up. 20 minutes later, Marcus's Instagram account disappeared. Just gone. But the screenshots were everywhere. The internet doesn't forget. Emma fell asleep on Jasmine's lap, finally at peace. Jasmine looked at me, tears streaming down her face. Mom, he told me you knew. He said you agreed it was best. He said, her voice broke, I would never leave her if I'd known. I know, baby. I know. But it's over now. You're getting her back, and we're going to make sure he never does this again. She wiped her eyes. What did you do? I showed her the post. Showed her the shares, the comments, the explosion. Watched her face go through a dozen emotions. Shock, horror, satisfaction, guilt, more satisfaction. Mom, she whispered, his career. Will recover or it won't, I said flatly. That's not your problem. Your problem is your daughter, who deserves a mother who fights for her. And you're going to fight, aren't you? Something in Jasmine's face hardened. Yes, I am. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I opened it, expecting more press or more harassment from Marcus's circle. Instead, it was a screenshot. Someone had sent me a photo of an email. The sender was Brennan Associates' HR department. The subject line, immediate suspension pending investigation. I didn't share that with Jasmine. Not yet. She had enough to process. But I saved it, just in case. That night, I stayed at Monica's apartment. We ordered pizza for Emma, set her up with her favorite movie, made sure she took her pain medication. Jasmine sat with her, stroking her hair, apologizing over and over, even though Emma didn't understand what for. Mommy's here now, Emma kept saying. It's okay, Mommy. You're here. After Emma finally fell asleep in Jasmine's arms, my daughter looked at me with an expression I hadn't seen since she was a teenager. Mom, what do I do now? Now? I pulled out my phone and scrolled to the contact I'd been avoiding using. Now we call Aunt Patricia. Aunt Patricia wasn't really Emma's aunt. She was Patricia Michaels, the most ruthless family law attorney in the state, and she'd been my college roommate 40 years ago. We'd stayed close through marriages, divorces, kids, careers. She owed me a favor from when I'd helped her daughter get into a prestigious consulting firm. Time to collect. Patricia answered on the first ring, her voice sharp and alert despite the late hour. Maggie, I was wondering when you'd call. You saw. I saw. Everyone saw. That man is done. She paused. How fast can Jasmine get to my office tomorrow? The next morning, while Emma played with Monica's daughter, Jasmine and I sat in Patricia's corner office overlooking the city. Patricia didn't waste time. She laid out the situation with clinical precision. The facts were damning. Marcus had lied to Jasmine about my knowledge of the separation. He'd kept Emma while claiming to co-parent responsibly. He'd abandoned Emma at the hospital, and he'd documented his own negligence on social media. This is one of the clearest cases of parental unfitness I've seen in 20 years, Patricia said, leaning back in her leather chair. The viral post doesn't hurt. In fact, it helps. It establishes a timestamp, a clear pattern of behavior, and public accountability. We'll file for emergency custody today. Given the circumstances, I'd be shocked if you don't get it. Jasmine was pale but determined. What about the house, the assets? Patricia smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile. Oh, honey, we're going to take him apart piece by piece. Legally, ethically, and thoroughly. By the time we're done, he'll be lucky to have visitation rights, let alone assets. We filed the emergency custody petition that afternoon. Along with it, Patricia attached the hospital records, the school's incident report, statements from the nurses about Emma being left alone, Monica's sworn affidavit about the separation lies, and of course, screenshots of every single one of Marcus's posts from that day. The judge's clerk called back within 2 hours. Emergency hearing scheduled for the next morning. That night, Marcus finally showed up at Monica's apartment. I answered the door. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in 24 hours. His eyes were bloodshot, his expensive suit rumpled, his usual polished appearance shattered. I need to see my daughter, he said. His voice was hoarse, desperate. No, you need to leave. I'm her father, and I'm her grandmother, and right now I'm the only thing standing between you and me calling the police for harassment. His facade cracked. You ruined my life. You posted that photo and you ruined everything. I didn't ruin anything, Marcus. I took a photograph of what you did. If your life is ruined, you ruined it yourself when you left an 8-year-old with a broken arm alone in a hospital while you ate birthday cake. His face contorted, cycling through anger, grief, panic. Ashley broke up with me. They suspended me from work. Everyone thinks I'm a monster. Are you not? I asked simply. He stared at me. Behind me, I heard footsteps. Jasmine appeared. Emma safely tucked away in the back room with Monica. Marcus, she said, her voice steadier than I'd heard in weeks. You lied to me. You told me my own mother knew about the separation. You kept me from my daughter. You made me think I was protecting her by staying away. Jazz, don't. She held up her hand. There's nothing you can say. We have a custody hearing tomorrow at 9 a.m. I suggest you get a lawyer. She closed the door in his face. Subscribe if you love seeing justice served, because the next part of this story is where everything came together. The emergency custody hearing was swift and brutal. Marcus showed up with a hastily hired attorney who looked like he'd been dragged out of bed an hour before. Patricia was immaculate, prepared, merciless. She presented the evidence piece by piece. The timeline, the lies, the abandonment, the social media posts. Marcus's attorney tried to argue that it was a momentary lapse in judgment, that Marcus was a devoted father, that this was being blown out of proportion. Then Patricia pulled out her tablet and showed the judge the post. All 5 million views of it. All 50,000 comments. All the shares from news outlets, parenting blogs, local community groups. Your Honor, this is not about social media humiliation. This is about a pattern of behavior. Mr. Hayes systematically isolated his daughter from her mother using lies. He abandoned his injured child in a hospital for over 3 hours, and he documented his own negligence while it was happening. This is not a lapse in judgment. This is who he is. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s with gray hair and sharp eyes, looked at Marcus for a long moment. "Mr. Hayes, did you tell your wife that her mother knew about your separation?" Marcus's jaw worked. I thought it would be easier if—" "Yes or no, Mr. Hayes?" "Yes. Did you leave your daughter alone in a hospital to attend a party? It wasn't just a party, it was— yes or no?" His shoulders slumped. "Yes." The judge removed her glasses and cleaned them slowly, deliberately. "In my 30 years on the bench, I have seen many cases of parental negligence. This is among the most clear-cut." She looked at Jasmine. "Mrs. Hayes, I am granting you immediate full physical custody of your daughter. Mr. Hayes will have supervised visitation only, pending a full custody evaluation. The family home will remain in Mrs. Hayes's possession. Mr. Hayes, you have 72 hours to remove your personal belongings." Marcus's face went white. "Your Honor, please." The judge held up her hand. "You are fortunate that your daughter is physically well and that your wife is willing to allow supervised visitation at all. If I had my way, you wouldn't see that child again until she was old enough to choose for herself whether she wanted a relationship with you. This hearing is adjourned." We walked out of that courtroom with everything. Jasmine had Emma back. She had the house. She had full custody. Patricia was already drawing up the divorce papers, planning the asset division, preparing for the next phase. But that wasn't the end of the consequences for Marcus. Not even close. 3 days after the custody hearing, Brennan Associates released a statement. "After a thorough investigation into recent events involving one of our senior directors, we have decided to terminate the employment of Marcus Hayes, effective immediately. Our company values integrity, responsibility, and ethical behavior both in and out of the workplace. The actions demonstrated by Mr. Hayes fall far short of these standards." Ashley, from what I heard through Jasmine's friends who still followed her private accounts, had moved back home with her parents. Her birthday had become infamous in their social circle. She'd deactivated all her social media. Several of her co-workers at the firm had apparently confronted her about the relationship, about whether she'd known Marcus had a family, about the ethics of dating a married colleague. But here's the thing about consequences. They don't stop just because the initial explosion is over. They ripple outward, touching everything. Marcus couldn't find another job in marketing. His name was poisoned. Every potential employer Googled him and found the same story, endlessly repeated across 1,000 websites and social media platforms. The marketing director who abandoned his injured daughter for Instagram photos. Some articles were sympathetic, talking about the dangers of social media pile-ons. Most were not. His professional reputation was destroyed, but that wasn't what hurt him most. What hurt him most, I think, was Emma. At first, she'd been excited for the supervised visits with her father. She loved him, despite everything. Children are resilient that way, forgiving in ways adults can't always understand. But as the weeks went on, something shifted. Emma started asking questions. "Why did you leave me at the hospital, Daddy? Why did you say Grandma couldn't come? Why did you tell Mommy she couldn't see me?" And Marcus, to his credit or maybe his cowardice, couldn't lie to her face. He tried to explain, to justify, to minimize. Emma listened with those big, intelligent eyes, and slowly, visit by visit, she pulled away. 6 months after the custody hearing, Emma told Jasmine she didn't want to see Marcus anymore. Not because Jasmine encouraged it. Not because I said anything, but because Emma, at 8 years old, had figured out what kind of man her father was. The supervised visitation supervisor noted in her report that Emma spent most of the visits quietly reading, barely engaging with Marcus, flinching away when he tried to hug her. Jasmine cried when she read that report. Not tears of victory, but tears of grief. Grief for what Emma had lost, for the father-daughter relationship that would never be whole again. I held my daughter while she sobbed and told her the truth. You can't protect children from reality forever. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let them see the truth and help them process it. Emma knows now. She knows her father chose himself over her. And when she's older, she'll know that you fought for her, that her grandmother fought for her, that she was worth fighting for. 1 year after that phone call from the school nurse, I sat in Jasmine's backyard, watching Emma play on the swing set. Her arm had healed perfectly. She was thriving in school, making friends, laughing again. She'd started calling me almost every day, sometimes just to tell me about a book she'd read or a joke she'd heard. We'd always been close, but now there was something deeper. Trust. The bone-deep knowledge that I would show up for her. Always. Jasmine had gone back to work, taken a promotion, started rebuilding her life. The divorce had been finalized 3 months prior. She got everything, the house, the car, the savings, full custody. Marcus paid child support, but barely. His job at a small startup paid a fraction of what he'd made before. Patricia had made sure the amount was locked in based on his previous income, so he'd be paying that rate for years, struggling to make ends meet while Jasmine and Emma lived comfortably in the home he'd tried to take from them. My favorite moment through all of this was actually about 2 months after the custody hearing. Emma had asked me, "Grandma, why did you post that picture of me?" She wasn't accusatory, just curious. I knelt down to her level, looked her in those beautiful brown eyes, so much like her mother's, and told her the truth. Because sometimes, baby girl, the only way to make someone accountable is to show the world exactly what they did. Your daddy made a choice that day. He chose a party over you. And if I hadn't shown people that choice, he could have kept making the same choice over and over. Sometimes the truth is the most powerful thing we have. She'd thought about that for a moment, then nodded. Like in my book, when the girl tells everyone the emperor has no clothes. Exactly like that. What was your favorite moment in this story? Comment below. And if you're a mother or grandmother who's ever had to choose between keeping the peace and protecting your family, the next story I have is going to hit different. It's about a woman who stayed silent for years until one moment changed everything. You won't want to miss it. Click the video on screen now. Looking back now, 2 years later, I don't regret what I did. Not for a second. People have asked me, strangers on the internet who tracked down my LinkedIn, my email, my public social media, whether I felt guilty about destroying Marcus's career, his relationship, his reputation. The answer is simple. I didn't destroy anything. I held up a mirror. Marcus destroyed his own life the moment he decided his wants were more important than his daughter's needs. The moment he lied to keep a mother from her child. The moment he walked out of that emergency room and posted best day ever while Emma cried alone. I just made sure everyone could see what he'd already done. Emma is 10 now. She's tall for her age, smart as a whip, with her mother's determination and, I like to think, a bit of my spine. She knows what happened. Jasmine and I decided, when she turned 9, that she deserved to know the full story. We sat her down and told her everything. The lies, the abandonment, the post, the aftermath. She listened quietly, processing. And then she asked me one question. "Grandma, do you think Daddy ever really loved me?" My heart broke a little, but I answered honestly. "I think your daddy loves you the way he's capable of loving anyone. But the kind of love you deserve, the kind that shows up and stays and fights, that's what your mom has. That's what I have. That's what you'll have for your own children someday." She nodded, satisfied, and went back to her homework. Just like that. Children are remarkable that way. They can hold complicated truths without falling apart. Marcus sends birthday cards now, Christmas gifts, awkward texts asking how she's doing. Emma responds politely, briefly. She calls him by his first name more often than Dad these days. He asked, through his lawyer, if he could have unsupervised visitation now that she's older. Emma told the court-appointed psychologist she wasn't comfortable with that yet. Maybe someday, maybe never. It's her choice now. As for me, I'm back to my consulting work, my life, my routine. But I keep that photo saved in a private folder on my phone. Not to gloat, not to relive the moment, but as a reminder that sometimes the right thing to do is the hardest thing. Sometimes protecting the people you love means making yourself the villain in someone else's story. The hashtag Ashley's birthday became a cautionary tale in parenting forums, in social media think pieces, in articles about the dangers of performative relationships and the importance of showing up for your children. Marcus Hayes became a symbol of negligent parenting. Ashley became the other woman who didn't care about the collateral damage, and I became, in some circles, the vengeful grandmother who destroyed a man's life with a single photo. I can live with that. Because when Emma comes running up to me, laughing, healthy, secure in the knowledge that she is loved and protected and valued. When Jasmine texts me about her latest promotion or her new relationship with a man who actually shows up when he says he will. When I see my family thriving and whole and free from someone who saw them as accessories to his own narrative, I know I made the right choice. That phone call from the school nurse changed my life. It changed Jasmine's life. It changed Emma's life. But most importantly, it revealed the truth we'd all been dancing around for years. Sometimes the truth is ugly. Sometimes it's brutal. Sometimes it destroys things that needed destroying. And sometimes, when you're a grandmother who gets a phone call that your granddaughter is alone and hurt and scared, you don't think about consequences. You don't worry about being fair. You don't consider the implications for anyone except that little girl who needed someone, anyone, to choose her first. I chose her. I would choose her again, every single time, without hesitation, without regret. Marcus still lives in this city, though we never see him. He works. He dates, from what I hear, though never anything serious. Women Google him now before the second date. The internet never forgets, and neither do potential partners who value integrity. He's tried to rebuild, tried to rebrand, tried to start fresh with new social media accounts under different names. But someone always recognizes him. Someone always connects the dots. The marketing director who chose a birthday party over his broken child. Last month, Emma asked me if I thought people were too hard on her father. She'd found some of the old articles, read the comments, seen the vitriol. I thought carefully before I answered. I told her that people responded to his actions, not to him as a person. That what he did was indefensible, and people were right to be angry. But also that human beings are complicated, capable of both terrible choices and growth. That it was okay for her to have mixed feelings about her father, to love him and be angry at him and be disappointed in him all at the same time. She thought about that, and then said something that made me incredibly proud. I think people should be held accountable for their actions, but I also think everyone deserves a chance to be better. Daddy hasn't really tried to be better, though. He just wants everyone to forget. There's a difference between growth and erasure. 10 years old and already wiser than most adults I know. That's what happens when children grow up seeing the truth, processing it with support, understanding that love doesn't mean excusing harm. Jasmine is getting remarried next spring. His name is David, and he's nothing like Marcus. He's a high school teacher, patient and kind, and utterly devoted to Jasmine and Emma both. He asked Emma's permission before he proposed to Jasmine. He's never once tried to replace Marcus or push Emma to call him dad. He just shows up. Every school play, every soccer game, every parent-teacher conference. He shows up. Emma adores him. Not because he buys her things or makes grand gestures, but because he's reliable. Because when he says he'll be there, he is. Because he listens when she talks about her day and remembers the names of her friends and helps her with her homework without making her feel stupid. Because he chose them, every day, in 1,000 small ways that matter more than any Instagram post. The wedding will be small, family and close friends. Emma will be the junior bridesmaid. I'll walk Jasmine down the aisle because her father passed when she was young, and because I've always been the one to stand beside her when it mattered. It will be nothing like her wedding to Marcus, that elaborate production with 300 guests and an open bar and a photographer who followed them around all day capturing perfect moments. This wedding will be real, honest, full of people who have earned their place there by showing up when it was hard, not just when it was photogenic. Sometimes I wonder what Marcus thinks about all this. If he lies awake at night replaying that day, wishing he'd made different choices. If he understands yet what he lost, not just the job and the reputation, but the relationship with his daughter, the chance to be the father she deserved, the life he could have had if he'd just valued the people who loved him more than the image he wanted to project. I don't think he does. From what Jasmine hears through mutual acquaintances, Marcus still sees himself as the victim, the man whose life was destroyed by a vindictive ex-mother-in-law and an overreaction to one mistake. He tells people it was blown out of proportion, that everyone makes errors in judgment, that the internet mob went too far. He still doesn't get it. It wasn't one mistake. It was a pattern of choices that culminated in one photographable moment. The lies to Jasmine. The prioritizing of his new relationship over his existing family. The casual cruelty of telling school staff not to bother me. The 3 hours he left his daughter alone. The birthday post. Every single one of those was a choice. I just made sure the world saw what those choices look like. Emma doesn't talk about her father much anymore. When she does, it's with a sort of detached sadness, like mourning someone who's still alive but lost to her in every way that matters. She's in therapy, working through the complicated grief of having a living parent who's essentially abandoned her through his own actions. Her therapist says she's doing remarkably well, all things considered. That having a strong support system, seeing healthy relationships modeled, and being allowed to feel her feelings without judgment has made all the difference. My phone still occasionally gets messages about that post, usually around Father's Day or around the anniversary of when it went viral. Journalists wanting to do a "Where Are They Now" piece. Podcasters wanting me to come on and discuss internet justice and whether I have any regrets. I decline all of them. This isn't entertainment. This is my family's life, Emma's life. She deserves privacy now, the chance to grow up without being forever defined as the girl from that viral post. But I did agree to one interview, about 6 months after everything happened, with a parenting magazine. They asked me what I wanted other grandparents, other mothers to know. I told them this: trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't be quiet to keep the peace. Don't accept explanations that don't make sense. And if you see someone you love being harmed, speak up, show up. Do the hard thing even when everyone tells you you're overreacting. The article got some attention, mostly positive. Some people called me a hero. Some people called me vindictive. I'm neither. I'm just a woman who got a phone call that her granddaughter was hurt and alone, and who decided that the truth mattered more than propriety. 2 years later, I look at my daughter and my granddaughter and I see them happy, genuinely happy. Not performing happiness for social media, not pretending everything's fine while dying inside, but actually content with their lives. Emma giggles at the breakfast table. Jasmine hums while she cooks dinner. They have dance parties in the kitchen and game nights with David and lazy Sunday mornings where no one has to perform or pretend. That's what I wanted. That's what I fought for. Not revenge, though that's what people called it. Justice, maybe. Accountability, certainly. But mostly just safety. The safety to be yourself, to be messy and real and imperfect without worrying that someone will choose a photo opportunity over your well-being. Marcus didn't give them that, so I took it for them. And if I had to do it again, knowing everything that would happen, every consequence and complication and controversy, I would make the same choice in a heartbeat, because that's what love looks like. Not the Instagram version with perfect filters and carefully curated captions. The real version. The kind that shows up in hospital waiting rooms. The kind that drives 200 miles without packing a bag. The kind that takes a photo and posts it with shaking hands because someone needs to see the truth. The kind that fights in courtrooms and sits through therapy sessions and rebuilds lives one small choice at a time. Emma will be 11 next month. We're planning her birthday party together, just family this time. She wants a cake with purple flowers and a sleepover with her 3 best friends. No social media posts, no elaborate production, just a little girl celebrating another year of life with people who love her without conditions or performance. I told her I'd make her favorite dinner, fried chicken and mac and cheese, the way my mother taught me and I taught Jasmine. She asked if she could invite David officially, now that he's going to be her stepdad. I said of course. She asked if her father would expect an invitation. I told her it was her birthday and her choice. She thought about it for a long time and then said she'd send him a card after, let him know she's okay. But she didn't want him at the party. She didn't seem sad about it. Just matter of fact. This is what boundaries look like. This is what it means to protect your peace. At 10 years old, she's already learning lessons it took me decades to understand. Sometimes I pull up that original post on my archived phone, the one I backed up before deactivating that account. I read through the comments, thousands of them, from people I'll never meet. Some share their own stories of negligent parents, of being left behind, of learning early that they couldn't count on the people who were supposed to protect them. Some thank me for doing what they wish someone had done for them. Some curse me for ruining a man's life over one mistake. I read them all with the same calm distance. These strangers don't know Emma. They don't know Jasmine. They don't know what it took for my daughter to rebuild herself after Marcus systematically destroyed her confidence and isolated her from her child. They don't know that Emma still has nightmares sometimes about being alone in that hospital, still tensing up when someone promises to come back and then takes too long. They don't know. So their opinions, good or bad, don't really matter. What matters is that Emma sleeps soundly most nights now, that Jasmine laughs again, deep belly laughs that shake her whole body, that our family, broken and scarred but healing, is building something real together. The truth is that viral moment, those 5 million views, the endless shares and comments and think pieces, none of that was the point. It was a tool, a means to an end. The end was safety, accountability, change, and we got all three. Marcus will live the rest of his life with the consequences of his choices. Ashley will too, though hers are admittedly less severe. But Emma will live the rest of her life knowing that when she needed someone, her grandmother showed up. Her mother fought for her. People she trusted chose her over everything else. That's the legacy I want to leave. Not the viral post, not the destroyed reputation, not the internet justice or the think pieces or the hashtag that trended for 3 days. Just this. I showed up. When it mattered most, when it was hardest, when the stakes were highest, I showed up for my granddaughter. And she'll remember that. Long after the internet forgets, long after Marcus rebuilds whatever version of a life he can salvage, long after the screenshots are buried under years of new content, Emma will remember. She'll remember that her grandmother drove 200 miles without hesitation, that I took a photo when my hands were shaking with rage, that I fought for her with every tool I had. She'll remember. And maybe someday, when she has children of her own and faces a moment where she has to choose between comfortable silence and uncomfortable truth, she'll remember what I did, and she'll find the courage to show up for them the way I showed up for her. That's the real story, not the revenge, the love that looked like revenge, the protection that required exposure, the grandmother who decided that her granddaughter's well-being mattered more than a man's reputation. I am Margaret Winters. I am 58 years old. I am a corporate consultant, a mother, a grandmother. I am a Black woman who has spent her life learning to use her voice strategically, to fight battles that matter, to choose her moments carefully. And when my moment came, when that phone rang and that nurse said those words, "Your son-in-law said not to bother you," I chose to bother everyone. Best decision I ever made.